Before radar screens filled control rooms and satellites watched from orbit, Britain's understanding of the battlefield depended on aircraft that could see, photograph, and survive long enough to report back. During the Second World War, reconnaissance aircraft quietly shaped almost every major British decision, from where bombers struck to where convoys sailed, to when armies advanced. These aircraft were not chosen at random. They evolved rapidly, reacting to loss, enemy defenses, altitude limits, and intelligence failures. Some were purpose-built. Others were improvised under pressure. Together, they formed a reconnaissance system that matured from slow visual spotting to high-altitude strategic intelligence gathering. In this documentary, we inventory every British reconnaissance aircraft used in WWII, tracing how each fit into the larger intelligence picture and why some succeeded where others vanished quickly. If any aircraft surprises you, or you think one deserves more attention, keep that thought in mind. Pre-war and early war Army cooperation. Reconnaissance aircraft. 1938-1941. Hawker Audax. The Audax MKI was a derivative of the Hawker Hart light bomber, adapted specifically for Army cooperation. It featured improved low-speed handling and equipment for message dropping and artillery spotting. While adequate in colonial policing roles, the Audax was already obsolete by 1939 and vulnerable to even light anti-aircraft fire. Hawker Hardy. The Hardy MKI was essentially a tropicalized Audax, optimized for operations in the Middle East and Africa. Though rugged and reliable in harsh climates, its lack of speed and defensive armament limited its usefulness once modern enemy fighters appeared. Hawker Hector. Designed as a replacement for the Audax, the Hector MKI used a Napier dagger engine that proved unreliable in service. It entered frontline units just before the war but was quickly sidelined, later finding limited use in secondary roles such as glider towing. Westland Lysander. The Lysander MKI, MK2, and MK3 represented the final evolution of pre-war Army cooperation aircraft. With exceptional short takeoff and landing capability, it excelled at low-altitude observation and liaison duties. However, during the Battle of France, the Lysander suffered devastating losses, proving that slow, low-flying reconnaissance aircraft could not survive in contested airspace. Early tactical photo-reconnaissance conversions, 1939-1942. Supermarine Spitfire. PR-MCOI. The PR-MCOI was Britain's first true high-speed photo-reconnaissance fighter. Armament was removed to save weight, fuel capacity was increased, and cameras were installed in the fuselage. Its speed allowed it to outrun most interceptors, proving that unarmed aircraft could survive if fast enough. Supermarine Spitfire, PR-MKA-4. The PR-MKA-4 improved range and camera fit, enabling deeper reconnaissance over occupied Europe. These aircraft played a vital role in photographing invasion ports, airfields, and industrial targets at a time when accurate intelligence was scarce. Supermarine Spitfire, PR-MKA-7. Optimized for high-altitude operations, the PR-MKA-7 featured a pressurized cockpit and extended wings. It allowed British intelligence to gather imagery from altitudes that pushed the limits of German interception capability. Hawker Hurricane PR-MKA-1 and PR-MK2. Although slower than the Spitfire, Hurricane reconnaissance conversions filled an urgent early war gap. They were easier to produce and maintain, allowing reconnaissance squadrons to expand quickly during critical periods. Bristol Blenheim PR-MKY and PR-MKRV. The Blenheim's reconnaissance variants offered greater range than fighter conversions, but at the cost of survivability. Loss rates were high, reinforcing the growing understanding that speed alone was often the difference between success and destruction. Dedicated medium and long-range reconnaissance aircraft. 1941-1944. De Havilland Mosquito PR-MKY. The PR-MKI was the first reconnaissance variant of the Mosquito, built around speed rather than armament. Constructed largely from wood, it combined low weight with exceptional performance, allowing it to operate above or beyond most enemy defenses while carrying advanced camera equipment. De Havilland Mosquito PR-MK4. This variant expanded range and camera capability, enabling detailed mapping and target analysis across Western Europe. The PR-Mk4 became a cornerstone of British reconnaissance, regularly flying unescorted missions deep into hostile territory. De Havilland Mosquito PR-Mk8. Optimized for higher altitude performance, the PR-Mk8 pushed reconnaissance ceilings even further. Its ability to photograph heavily defended regions made it indispensable in the build-up to major Allied operations. De Havilland Mosquito PR-Mk15. Entering service later in the war, the PR-Mk15 combined pressurization with extended range. It represented the peak of Mosquito reconnaissance development, gathering intelligence with minimal losses. Martin Maryland M. and Mk2. Supplied from the United States, the Maryland offered good speed and range early in the war. Though eventually outclassed, it served effectively in the Mediterranean and North African theaters when alternatives were limited. Vickers Wellington GR-Mk and GR-Mk reconnaissance use. Originally designed as bombers, these Wellingtons were adapted for long-duration reconnaissance and patrol work. Their endurance allowed them to monitor wide areas, particularly where persistent observation mattered more than speed. Maritime and Coastal Reconnaissance Aircraft 1939–1945, short Sunderland MKI, MK2, MK3, and MK5. The Sunderland flying boat became the backbone of British maritime reconnaissance. With long endurance, heavy defensive armament, and space for radar and observers, it could patrol vast ocean areas. Later marks improved range, electronics, and survivability, turning the Sunderland into a persistent threat to U-boats and surface raiders alike. Lockheed Hudson MK1, MK2, and MK3. Adapted from a commercial airliner, the Hudson filled a critical early war gap in coastal reconnaissance. It offered better speed than flying boats and proved effective in locating enemy shipping and submarines. The Hudson's flexibility made it a reliable workhorse during Britain's most vulnerable years. Bristol Beaufort MK4 reconnaissance role. Though designed as a torpedo bomber, the Beaufort also performed maritime reconnaissance, particularly in identifying and shadowing enemy vessels. Its reconnaissance work often directly enabled successful naval strikes. Avro Anson Mk1 coastal reconnaissance role. Initially intended for training and light patrol duties, the Anson found widespread use in coastal reconnaissance due to its availability. While limited in performance, it provided essential coverage during periods when more capable aircraft were in short supply. High-altitude and strategic photo-reconnaissance aircraft, 1942–1945. Supermarine Spitfire, PR-Mkx. The PR-Mkx introduced a pressurized cockpit to the reconnaissance Spitfire lineage, allowing sustained operations at extreme altitudes. Although produced in limited numbers, it demonstrated the feasibility of very high-altitude intelligence gathering beyond the reach of most enemy fighters. Supermarine Spitfire, PR-Mk. The PR-Mk became the most numerous and versatile British photo-reconnaissance Spitfire. Combining long-range, excellent high-altitude performance, and flexible camera configurations, it photographed targets across occupied Europe with remarkable consistency. Much of the detailed intelligence used for Allied planning relied on this variant's imagery. Supermarine Spitfire, PR-Mk13. Unlike its high-altitude counterparts, the PR-Mk13 specialized in low-level tactical reconnaissance, particularly in preparation for amphibious operations. It proved especially valuable in coastal mapping and beach reconnaissance prior to Allied landings. Supermarine Spitfire PR-Mk99. The PR-Mk99 represented the ultimate evolution of the Spitfire reconnaissance line. Faster, higher flying, and capable of reaching extreme altitudes, it continued flying intelligence missions even after the war in Europe ended, underscoring its exceptional design. De Havilland Mosquito PR-Mk9 and PR-Mk15. Strategic emphasis. These Mosquito variants carried heavy camera loads over long distances at high speed. Their reliability and survivability made them ideal for photographing high-value strategic targets, often returning with intelligence no other aircraft could safely obtain. Obsolete, interim, and secondary reconnaissance types. Fairey Battle Mk20. reconnaissance role. Originally designed as a light bomber, the Fairey battle was briefly employed in reconnaissance during the early war period. Its slow speed and limited defensive capability made it extremely vulnerable, leading to heavy losses in 1940. Despite this, battles provided valuable early intelligence during the chaotic opening months before being rapidly withdrawn from frontline reconnaissance duties. Armstrong-Whitworth-Whitley Mk-V reconnaissance use. The Whitley, primarily a night bomber, was adapted for long-range reconnaissance and patrol missions. Its stability and endurance made it suitable for extended observation tasks, particularly in coastal and peripheral theaters. However, its dated design and limited altitude performance restricted its effectiveness as enemy defenses improved. Fairey Swordfish Mk-V reconnaissance and patrol role. Although best known as a torpedo bomber, the Swordfish also performed reconnaissance and patrol missions, especially in maritime environments. Its slow speed allowed detailed visual observation, and its reliability made it useful in poor weather. While obsolete by conventional standards, the Swordfish filled reconnaissance gaps that faster aircraft could not always address. British reconnaissance aircraft in the Second World War were never a single uniform force. They were a constantly adapting system shaped by loss, necessity, and rapidly changing intelligence demands. Early war aircraft emphasized visibility and cooperation with ground forces, but combat quickly proved that survival depended on speed, altitude, and reach. Fighter conversions answered the immediate crisis, proving that intelligence could be gathered without guns if performance was high enough. Purpose-built and heavily adapted platforms like the Mosquito then refined reconnaissance into a disciplined, reliable intelligence operation rather than an improvised gamble. Maritime reconnaissance followed its own path, prioritizing endurance and persistence to protect Britain's lifelines at sea. Meanwhile, high-altitude strategic platforms quietly delivered information that shaped bombing campaigns, invasion planning, and post-war assessments. Even obsolete or interim aircraft played their part, ensuring coverage was never completely lost during moments of transition. Taken together, these aircraft formed an intelligence network that matured alongside the war itself. Britain did not win reconnaissance superiority through a single breakthrough, but through continuous adaptation, learning what failed, refining what worked, and never allowing the flow of information to stop.